Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Terry with College Football Stop, bringing you another show today. Got a lot of stuff to get into, man. Ohio State's brought in a new quarterback, Will Howard, from the transfer portal. We got to get into that and what that means for the Ohio State quarterback room. A couple different guys are looking at in the transfer portal. A couple guys that left Ohio State. I want to talk about those guys, where they're going, kind of why they left, and then we got to talk about this Ohio State coaching staff because I think that some changes need to be made, and I definitely want to get into that. So let's go ahead and get started. Obviously, we're going to start from the top. Um, Ohio State brought in Will Howard, Kansas State transfer, guy who's going to be playing his fifth year of college football. He's a pretty good quarterback at Kansas State. They won the Big 12. They won the Big 12 championship last year in 2022. Obviously, they didn't this year, but I don't know, man. I've watched a couple games of this guy's, and I'm talking like full games. I know a lot of people see the highlights and all that good stuff, and that's cool. But I watched a couple of his games, and honestly, I don't really know how to think of. I don't really know how to think about him because, and this is not a negative towards him at all. I mean, for me, basically, I want to say first off, I hope that he comes here and having that level up in talent than what he's used to playing with turns him from, like that mid-level quarterback where I think he was projected to be like a third or fourth round pick, which I mean, third or fourth round picks are NFL players. So if he's projected to be like a third or fourth round pick, maybe coming here, that projection can be increased a lot. Maybe Ryan Day gets a hold of him an entire offseason because I mean he has the size. I think he's like 6'6", 240, something like that. I like what this guy brings. Honestly, I do, and I think that Will Howard is his ability to run at that size. That is his special trait. As when I'm talking about quarterbacks, a lot of the times I talk about special traits. Ryan Day was asked about Kyle McCord's special traits, and he talked about how Kyle kind of has the same personality all the time. People talk about Devin Brown's special traits. They talk about his ability to extend plays. And I think Will Howard's is a little bit different than kind of what Devin Brown brings because Will Howard is able to take off and actually run. We haven't really seen that from Devin Brown. We've seen him run to the sideline and not getting any positive yards. But there's kind of a completely different running quarterback when you can drop back and then see nothing's open and run through a hole in the middle of the line and take off down the middle of the field. So we haven't seen anything like that from Devin Brown, but he hasn't had a ton of snaps either to even get in a situation where the defense would be playing man and would not be have anyone looking at him, and then if he can get past the line of scrimmage, then he can make a big play. But that is something that Will Howard has. He has the ability to see those holes in the defense and to take advantage of those yards. So hopefully he'll come in here, and I'm not going to pick anyone who I hope will be the starting quarterback next year. I just hope that it's the best guy. So obviously, with all the stuff coming out about Ryan Day this year, about how the coaches on the team did not want, or sorry, they did like a vote, and the coaches on the team kind of picked Devin Brown over Kyle McCord as the starter. That's kind of the thing that I've hung my hat on. I truly do believe that that Devin Brown was the better quarterback, and I think that if he had the entire season to play, he would have needed to develop as the season went on, just like Kyle did or was supposed to. And I'm already on record saying that I think if Devin Brown played, that Ohio State would have beat Michigan if they played through the entire, or if he played through the entire year. So anyway, that's kind of the golden question for me with this situation is what does Will Howard mean to this quarterback room? So I think there's two things that we can talk about here. One is probably reality, probably what we should expect. The other is what will be the right thing to do. Okay, so first thing, in my opinion, the right thing to do in this situation is going to be to have Will Howard come into this room and insert him into the quarterback room as a peer of all of the other guys, and they all need to compete, and whoever wins the battle wins the battle. And to me, I think that it should be like that at every single position at Ohio State. Look at, I mean, no matter what, every single position that it should be the case. Like you should go out there, you should compete, and you should try to win that job. That's it. And I think that's the proper way to do it. What I think is probably happening is that Ryan Day is in his last year at Ohio. What am I saying? His last year. Ryan Day is in a very pivotal year for his career at Ohio State because there is a chance that if things don't go well this week, that Ryan or sorry, I'm sorry, I heard something and it threw me off. Something. This is the problem with doing my show at night. My kids are home, so anyway, what was I talking about here? What I think that Ryan Day is going to do ultimately is I think that Will Howard is going to come in and he's going to be promised the starting quarterback job. And I think that's a mistake by Ryan Day. And ultimately, it just depends on if Will Howard is the best quarterback on the team, right? If he is, then that's not a mistake. Nobody will ever care about it. But if he's not and something were to happen, he's not the best quarterback on the team, Ryan Day could put himself right back into a predicament like he was in last year with Kyle McCord. I do think that Will Howard is better than Kyle McCord, though, so don't get that twisted. But I think that with Ryan Day being in such a pivotal year where if he does have a really bad year this year, there is a chance that it could be his last year at Ohio State, especially with 4 losses to Michigan. I mean, I know Ohio State fans don't like that. There's no way that the Ohio State staff, faculties, and all that good stuff are okay with it either. So, and they got a new athletic director coming in, so he wouldn't even have Gene Smith there to save him, as that relationship that they've already built. So, I'm gonna look in the chat here. Let me see. Josh says he's better than every quarterback in that room. Hey, listen, if that's the case, that's the case, and I hope it is. If it is, then cool. I mean, Ohio State should win the national championship next year, right? Our defense should be better. If he's the best quarterback in the room and he's good enough, then I mean, no excuse. We should be natty or bust next year. Hopefully that's the case. I just don't think that Ryan Day should bring him into this room and tell him like you're the starting quarterback and everybody else is just you know you can try to develop more here. I don't think that's the right approach. My hands are freezing, man. It's a little cold in here. Let me see here. Mark said, I honestly believe Will's better than DB. DB was QB2. And listen, Mark, that's the thing that, Mark's my guy. Me and him have been talking about this already. But I truly don't believe that Devin Brown was QB2 at Ohio State last year. I don't think that he should have been. I mean, if you want to compare like the end of the year, okay, that's fine. If you want to compare like the little bit of reps that Devin Brown got in the Cotton Bowl to what we saw from Kyle McCord, absolutely. Kyle McCord was better, whatever, that's fine. But Devin Brown barely even got to play in that game. And when he did, his offensive line was terrible. And honestly, the offensive line was costing Ohio State that entire game. Even Lincoln Kienholz, I feel like, was a better quarterback than what he was able to put on display out there because Ohio State's offensive line was just not holding up their end of the bargain. And that because of that change that they made, with putting Matt Jones at center and Enoch Bamahi at right guard. I just don't think that it was a good move. But I don't know. Anyway, just to kind of sum the whole thing up, I just hope that it's an open quarterback competition. That's all. That's all I think that we need. And you don't bring someone in and promise them a job. I just think that you can't do that, especially someone like this. If you're bringing in, let's say Travion Henderson declares for the draft, right? And the next guy that I want to talk about here is Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss. He's coming into Ohio State. Hell yeah, guarantee him a spot. Guarantee him the starting job. He's the best running back in college football. Guarantee him the job. Okay, that's not what we're dealing with here with Will Howard. And I don't know. I just don't. I do think that even I contributed some to maybe hyping up Devin Brown too much to where not factoring in, okay, what if a situation happens like this? He early in the game is just trying to get into a rhythm and then he gets injured. Well, I'm guilty of hyping him up to be like some great quarterback at Ohio State when he's never even played a game. And I don't think it's the right move to do that with Will Howard. I don't think that he's earned that either. If you look at his film, I don't think that that's the type of quarterback that you're looking at. To me, it's more of like a Kyle McCord arm talent, and he's more athletic. Way more athletic. Like he can run for. I've seen games where he ran for 100 yards in a game on 10 carries. I mean, he broke a really long one, but I mean, Kyle McCord would even get 5 yards in a game. So I don't know. I think that's what he reminds me of, like a Kyle McCord, but more athletic. And I mean, obviously, he's going to be older too because he'll be going into his 5th year. So let me know in the chat if you guys didn't already, or in the comments. Will Howard going to be Ohio State's 2024 starting quarterback? And then I do want to move on from that. Um, Ohio State, there's an offensive lineman from Alabama who just went into the portal also. I think he just went into the portal last night or something like that. His name is Seth McLaughlin. Now, if you watch the college football playoff game against Michigan, he's the guy who was out there fucking up. He's the one who rolled the snap multiple times, snapped it when this quarterback didn't call for the ball. But if I think Ohio State's looking at him. Well, I know they are because he came and took a visit today with Ohio State. There was like a rumor out there that he was with Will Howard and Ryan Day. They were having a dinner. I don't know if that was true or not, but it was something I saw on Twitter. But I think Ohio State's probably bringing him in to play guard. I think Ohio State needs a guard for next year. Um, I don't know what the situation is with Carson Hinsman with him getting benched. But I mean, with him having an entire year of reps at center, even though he was not the best, I think I would be comfortable with Carson Hinsman being the starting center next year. He didn't really do anything that really would render him to not be capable of being the starting center next year. So if we could bring in this Seth McLaughlin guy and we could plug him in at guard, I think that would be a big time pickup for Ohio State because right now you currently have your left tackle, more than likely Simmons. I don't know if Donovan Jackson's coming back or not. He's still on the fence, but assuming that he does, or let's assume he doesn't, you plug in Tager Tabola. He looks like he's ready to play, in my opinion. When he got in the game against Missouri, good things happened. So, but then you plug in a guy like this at right guard, and then you need to figure out that right tackle spot. Unless you're going to roll another year at right tackle with Fryer, but I don't think that's the move. I think he's even more of a guard body type. So, anyway, I think it would be a good pickup. A lot of people were like making fun of Ohio State on Twitter for that, but to me, that's a great pickup. If you're bringing in an offensive lineman who started an entire year in the SEC at Alabama and was not a complete liability, like, yeah, he did have issues with snapping the ball the entire year. Maybe that's just not what he's good at, and you don't bring him in to snap the ball. You bring him in to be another position on the offensive line that needs to do similar things. I think that's what Ohio State's doing here. So hopefully we'll get that kid. Let me see. I'm gonna look at a couple more things in the chat here. The competition that Howard faced will help him transition into the Big Ten. Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, I don't know. I made a joke today in one of my group chats talking about the wide receivers. People are like, "Oh, well, they played with, or he played with 5'9" wide receivers, and blah 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 blah." But Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to be on this team next year, and Will Howard's coming into a wide receiver room that is not proven. Now, do I think that they're going to be really good? I do think that, especially with another offseason of development. But who in this wide receiver room is proven? Emeka Egbuka, if he comes back, he still hasn't even announced yet. But just to assume Emeka Egbuka comes back. Wait, imagine this. Imagine Emeka Egbuka declares for the draft. Would you think that Emeka was declaring for the draft because of the quarterback that they brought in? That's just a food for thought. Obviously, we won't know until it happens. But anyway, Emeka Egbuka, and then you're going to be looking at guys like Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Jaden Ballard is not proven at all. He's proven that he can at least be on the field. But none of these guys are proven. And I see my homie Mark in the chat saying they have McCord. Yes, they have McCord, but when I say proven, that doesn't even matter. None of them guys even got enough reps in actual games to even be proven, no matter who the quarterback was. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that they won't be good. Like personally, I think Carnell Tate is a superstar. I think that Brandon Ennis is a superstar. I think that Jeremiah Smith coming in is going to be really good. I don't think he'll be a superstar the day he steps on campus, but I think that he'll be really good. Mylan Graham, same way. I think that he'll be really good. That kid reminds me a lot of Garrett Wilson. Um, so I don't know. I mean, he's going to be having weapons, but I made the joke like, do Ohio State receivers really get more separation than those receivers that he was playing with? Because that's one of the big issues that the receivers have had is getting separation. So I don't know. Obviously, the talent level is way different, and then especially if a guy like Travion Henderson comes back, because I think Trey has the potential to be the best running back in college football next year if he comes back one more year. I think that he athletically he's right there, and I think that he just missed 1 year of development. He talked about it himself about how the year that he was hurt, he was only practicing like once a week, and I mean that entire year of development for him was a problem. So I don't know, man. We'll see. Even with assuming Will Howard's the starter here, I think that if we had Will Howard as our quarterback last year against Michigan, I think that we beat them. So, with all the stuff that I'm saying here about um, how good that I think he is or he isn't, uh, I think that if Ohio State has Will Howard last year, they go undefeated and they are in the playoffs right now. And they would have played at Alabama, assuming they were just a Michigan spot, right? They would have played at Alabama. I think that I would take Ohio State to beat Alabama. I mean, as long as we could figure something out on our defense to stop that quarterback, I think, and I would take them, especially with Will Howard at quarterback. So I don't know. We're kind of splitting hairs when we're talking about it because now we're dealing with the standard of do we need a quarterback who is like C.J. Stroud, Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins level, or do we need a quarterback that is just a little bit better than Kyle McCord, and we're going to go win the national championship, and it doesn't even matter. So is Ohio State at a point right now where we can have a quarterback that is anywhere from Will Howard to C.J. Stroud and be competing for the national championship? If that's the case, it's kind of hard to argue that the program is in a bad spot, even though I do think that it is. Because the last thing I want to talk about here is the Ohio State coaching staff, kind of the changes that I think need to be made. I want you guys to let me know in the chat. Are there any coaches that? All right, obviously I think that Parker Fleming has to go, right? Because I don't know if the special teams issues are all his fault. If they're not, then they won't get changed once he leaves. But if they are his fault, and the special teams has been terrible, but if they are his fault, then he needs to go. I think he needs to go anyway, just because that's his job position. He's taking up a spot on the staff that's not. He's not really recruiting. So I think that you get him out of there, and then you have either one of your GAs or one of your current coaches start coaching special teams and use that spot to fill. Because I think that we need some changes on the offensive staff. If you look through Ohio State's offensive staff, they have Ryan Day, Corey Dennis, Keenan Bailey, Brian Hartline, and Justin Fry. So tell me looking at that staff. Oh yeah, and Tony Alford. I forgot Tony Alford. But anyway, looking at that staff, who in that room is like your old time guru, been around football forever, been through 4 different eras of football, and they know how to adjust to all these different things that are coming. Because if you look at the Tressel, Urban, and Ryan Day era, college football is a completely different thing in all 3 of those eras. You got to have guys around your football team that have been here for all 3, because at any time things could start to shift, and that's just kind of how it works. And if you're not keeping up with the times, then you turn into I can't think of the guy's name. Anyway, you turn into one of them coaches who just is stuck in their old ways, and they're not ever going to win, even though they were successful at one point. So, anyway, I think that they need to make some changes on this offensive staff, and I've been steady saying this the entire year, ever since the end of the 2022 season, that Ryan Day needs to give up play calling. I have never wavered on this, not one single bit. And people tell me, but Ryan Day is the one of the best play callers in college football. And to me, I don't care. If you're the one of the best play callers in college football, then you need to learn how to be one of the best teachers of of that knowledge. Like that's what you need to be. Ryan Day needs to be able to teach that knowledge to somebody else because if you're going to be the head coach at Ohio State, you need to be over control of everything. You know, like you look back at 2021, or no, yeah, look back at 2022. Sorry, and Ohio State had issues on defense. The same issues the whole entire year. That's on Ryan Day. I mean, Jim Knowles is the head coach of the defense, right? But Ryan Day is the head coach of the whole team. You have to hold him accountable for that stuff. And, same with the special teams. Ryan Day is responsible for that. At the end of the day, he's not an offensive coordinator. So I want to see him give up play calling and bring in a real OC. Bring in somebody who's been around the block before. Look at that. Look at teams that are consistently successful. Look at the Alabamas, the Georgias, things like that. They got guys that have been around the block and have been coaching for a long time as their coordinators. We have one right now on defense. Jim Knowles has been around the block. He's been through all of these eras of football, and he's learned how to adjust to them. And now he's having to adjust to a completely different thing coming to the Big Ten. And he was able to take the Ohio State's defense that was awful, make it a little bit better. They were still giving up big plays, which obviously was a problem, and now he had them as like one of the top at least 5 defenses in college football. I would probably argue even better than that, especially if you're looking at stopping like the best offenses in college football. The Ohio State's defense, I think, will be prepared to line up with anybody and go toe to toe with them. That's just where I'm at with it. But like I said, in terms of the offense, I think they just need to bring in at least one guy who is that. I mean, it should be someone who we know. That's how I feel about it. I feel like when Ryan Day brings in a coordinator, it should be someone who we should be able to hear his name and be like, all right, this is about to get fixed. I don't want to see someone who's never coached before at this level. Honestly, I mean, I want to see someone who's been at least at this level before. So I've been at one of the top programs in the country before, or coached in the college football playoffs before, or somebody like that. I want to see someone coach for a national championship before in the past. I want to see someone like that. So we'll see. I think that Ohio State probably needs them. All right, this is another guy I want to talk about. I know I've been talking about the offense, but this just popped in my head, and I want to talk about it before I forget because I didn't write it down here. Larry Johnson. Let me know in the chat. Do you guys think that Larry Johnson should continue being the defensive line coach at Ohio State? This is such a tough question for me because Larry Johnson is a legend in college football. Widely known as one of the best defensive line coaches out there. And I think that it's unfortunate that as he got older in age, that the recruiting kind of slowed down. He was not able to recruit at the level that he was able to before, because it's really hurt him. And looking at Ohio State's defensive line this year, you wouldn't really think that I feel that way because I've been someone who's defended the defensive line all year about how good they are, and I think that they were that good. I think they were not generating as much sacks or pressure as they should, and I think it's because they were doing what they were asked to do, which was not really get out of your lane to get after the quarterback. You kind of have to be willing to maybe give up a run play and not have your guys in the right gap if you want them to line up outside and try to make a real pass rush around the edge. And I just don't think that they were doing that enough this year. And I think that they did against Missouri, and it paid off. I think that against Missouri, Jack Sawyer got 3 sacks. JT Tuimoloau was getting pressures. Kenyatta Jackson was out there getting pressures. I think that it paid off for them. So I don't know. Maybe they'll get into more of that next year. I wouldn't mind seeing Jim Knowles bring back his jack position next year. Maybe with a guy like C.J. Hicks or a guy like Arvell Reese. That's a kid that I can't wait to see get on the field. Just one of those freak athlete type players. Even Mitchell Melton, who I think Jim Knowles has liked. He's always liked him, and every time Mitchell Melton gets on the field, it just seems like he's blowing by people. His straight line speed is honestly it's probably the fastest in our linebacker and defensive end room. If I'm being honest, maybe not C.J. Hicks, but I mean Mitchell Melton looks like a freak athlete every time he gets on the field. So maybe we'll see some of that return next year. I don't know. In terms of other staff changes that need to be made, I don't know. I mean, looking through the defense, I don't know if you make a change with Larry Johnson now or not. I'm not sure. It looks like a lot of the guys are coming back. A lot of the defensive line guys, obviously, Tyleek Williams already announced that he was coming back. Um, Jack Sawyer hasn't announced, but I'm assuming that he is. JT Tuimoloau was a guy who I kind of always thought would go, but with multiple of Larry's guys coming back, I don't know if you make a coaching change at that spot right now. But I also know that 2021 was the year where Larry Johnson's best recruiting class in recent years were all juniors, and the classes since then have not been that good. So the future of that room is kind of up in the air. Ohio State's going to have to make some moves, and hopefully, Edric Houston is really good because obviously that was a must-win recruit for Ohio State, and they were able to pull it off. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Just like I said, I think they need to make some changes on the staff. Maybe end up with a change in like 4, maybe 5 spots on overall. I think they do kind of need an overhaul because you got to get some more guys in there with age and guys in there who have just done the job before. Ryan Day is going to be on the hot seat next year, I think, so he needs to make those changes. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here, guys. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm going to try to do a show like every 2 days. That's the goal for me. Usually like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I may go back to doing them at 11 a.m. We'll see. It just depends, kind of how my days work out with my kids going back to school and stuff. So I appreciate you guys watching. Peace out and have a great night.